If you're enjoying the Heath Geeks Book Club podcast, we'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, rating, or review, whichever your preferred podcatcher platform allows.
This edition of our podcast is brought to you by 360 Health and Well Balanced Nutrition.
Welcome to the Heath Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen Norton and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
Hey everybody, we are back and talking more about our phones and how we may want to break up with them. We're talking about the book How to Break Up with Your Phone by Catherine Price. And I'm going to start off by this thing she has in the book about our phones being being just like one of the most addictive devices ever to have been invented, a slot machine. That was cool to me. So, you think about it, scroll through your IG account to see what pictures come up. That's kind of like a slot machine, right? Swipe faces left or right on dating apps, and all of this is kind of playing in our minds the way that a slot machine does. And a slot machine is something people can get really addicted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just since 2007, because as I understand it, that's when the smartphone came out. 2007.
Yeah, that's when the iPhone happened, or BlackBerries were there. It was somewhat there.
Yeah, the Palm Pilots.
But it was the iPhone that really started that.
And we've talked about some new words in the lexicon of this generation, and one of them is the WMDs. Y'all know what WMDs are, don't you?
I do not.
Oh, that's let me see if I can tell you what a WMD is. It's a wireless mobile device. Mm. So
we were talking off air about kind of where we fall in this generation of how phones came to be in our lives. And I remember when car phones were first coming around, and there were these giant things. And then I remember Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell having this like cell phone the size of his head or bigger.
Yep.
And I remember having a pager.
Yeah, I think we all said we had pagers.
And we'd have to go to a payphone to use them. And
things have changed, and rapidly, which is the other issue here. The speed of change has really gotten us, what would you say? We don't know what's happening. I think we're scrambled.
I mean, it's just amazing in the past however many years that this has become such a big part of our lives. It's like we see it as a solution to so many things that we can't live without it. We're always with it. Yeah. And that's just amazing that in that matter of time that's happened.
Yeah, well, there's another word she uses, phone out. It's a verb. The act of using your phone to escape from your present experience. So that's one of the reasons we keep it with us, maybe.
We're waiting in line, we're bored, or we're waiting at the doctor, we use it.
Yeah.
She encourages us to not do that, which that was part of the, do I have to not do that? But just that we can be bored, right? We could take in the world around us.
We should be bored is what she says.
Exactly.
And boredom is what sparks creativity. Mm-hmm. And that story that she told about the kid that went on a 5-hour road trip with his neighbor, and the neighbor brought a stick. And the whole time the kid was, the stick was a sword, the stick was a person, the stick was, the imagination of this kid with his stick being entertained in a car for a long ride. And the colleague said, I need to up my game on imagination. And you can't do that if you're constantly barraging your brain with input, stimulus. Mm-hmm. Boredom is where you can find that imagination.
And she compares reading a book to reading on our phone, right? Mm-hmm. And reading on our phone has lots of distractions. There's links we can click. There's pop-ups. But reading on, just with good old-fashioned book.
Book club endorsement.
Helps our brain. I can't remember exactly, and I don't have the page pulled up, but it helps develop our brain.
Yes.
Versus the latter helping fragment our brain.
Yeah, and it has to do with attention. And so just a little sidebar here, since we really like this book, we think everybody should read this book. At least I'm saying I think this is one you should read this year.
And you even said it's really easy and fun to read. She's not harping on you the whole time. So it's entertaining.
It's colorful, it's bright, it's a nice size.
It's very small, handheld.
But it's a little different size, and it's just like a nice book. But Tim, you can get this book from our website, can't you?
You can. If you go to healthgeekspodcast.com and click on the link for How to Break Up with Your Phone Part 2, or Part 1, both of them have the same thing, but you can purchase the book straight from the link there, and that would help us. It goes towards paying for this podcast so we can bring you more episodes.
Yeah. So what she's saying in here about this attention span and boredom and stuff, I really enjoyed how, I said she's a science journalist. Catherine Price wrote this book, and she's got a great endnote section. It's well substantiated. But she talks about concentration, and there are two parts to it. You have to identify what to pay attention to. And so, we're struggling. Do I pay attention to my phone? Do I pay attention to the person in front of me? Do I pay attention to my notebook? Whatever, We have to make that choice. And then the second thing is you have to have the ability to ignore distractions. And that's what Kristen was saying about when you're reading a book, you're not distracted by the sidebar ads that they've figured out you want to see because of what you've looked at before, or that link for more information on this idea, and then you go down the rabbit hole, and then that brings you more links, and then you forget what you were even doing to start with. And so she says read books, and we as book club members advocate for that as well.
Yes. That's one of the many ways it affects our brains.
Well, that decision fatigue that comes in, and I know probably all of you that are out there have experienced too many decisions. I know my daughter, when she was younger, and maybe even still now, we would go to the mall, and it would be too much stimulation. And I think she likes to shop at Trader Joe's, and my daughter will have to respond to this if she listens, because there are less choices at Trader Joe's than there are at some of the mega stores or the big box stores. You don't have as many decisions. You go in and get what you want, and you're out. You can trust the brand. You like it.
Yes.
Simplifies her life. She's got, family, kids, business, work, too many places to have too many decisions, and it does exhaust you.
And it may not seem like our phone is an additional place of that, but if it's always giving you input, then you're not giving your mind that rest from deciding to click on this link or not, right? Because those are still decisions that are filling your brain.
Yeah, but she says that mental fatigue causes us to give in to our brain's natural preference for distraction, and we get better and better at not staying focused, and focus isn't profitable, distraction is. So once again, we're being manipulated. And those of us in businesses are encouraged to manipulate people by participating in this.
Oh, I hate that.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's true.
Yeah.
What happens to your memory?
Well,
What'd you say?
Okay, that was an example of short-term memory being busted. You have two types of memory, short-term and long-term memory, and she has a great discussion of this, and it would be interesting if you have never read about these things. And the way that our neurons and memories are connected to each other are called schemas. And the schemas sharpen our thinking by helping us identify commonalities between seemingly disparate things. So we have a brain that knows a traffic cone and a pumpkin have different purposes, but the two objects aren't connected schematically by function, but they are orange. So they're connected. It is a really interesting network of ideas that our memory is hanging into, and this area called the hippocampus in our brain can be large or small. And we're going to read a book about cognitive health and aging, and the memory centers can be destroyed as we age, and it results in cognitive decline, which none of us want.
And our phones are just not helping.
I don't think so.
She says it's overloading our working memory, and then that makes it harder for our brains to transfer new information to our long-term memories. This, in turn, makes it less likely that we'll remember the experiences and information that we did manage to pay attention to.
Yeah. And it's damaging our capacity for complex thought, which goes along with that idea in the last episode when we talked about we no longer have a common definition of what's true. And now we have the inability to have deep thought. And I've noticed this in I guess, my lifetime. We used to read pretty complex discourses, and now we get lists, and now we get bullets, and now we get infograms.
Infographics.
Oh, thank you. See, I don't know what they are because I can't remember either. Yeah, and it disturbs me because when I want to share an idea with somebody, I want to develop it and kind of guide them to where I've gone and how I got to my conclusion, and that takes some time. But if you don't have time, just give me the bottom line.
Well, yeah, now to get anybody's attention, you got to have a flashy video that's only 15 seconds, and how can you develop the idea that way?
Right.
Yeah,
It's
but
annoying.
but like you said, our phones can affect our ability for deep thought, and so that made me think of the state of flow. And one of my favorite times of the day is when I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I can set a time, like I can sit down and get some work done. And hours go by, and I'm like, ooh, I haven't even looked at my phone. And then I do, and I've got some messages and such. But because it was on Do Not Disturb, I was able to get in the flow of my work and forget about my phone.
So you actually have the new habit of do not disturb.
That is one of her suggestions in her 30-day plan that I had already been implementing and do recommend.
Well, because we need to get into her plan real quick, but I wanted to just say, you brought it up, flow was another one of the words, because I love rivers, I think of water flowing.
But that's not what she means.
No, she's talking about the feeling that you get when you're totally focused on something and when you're present in that moment and totally engaged.
Right.
And that brings us to the moment, which then brings us to mindfulness. And she talks about mindfulness as a solution to this, and then has designed this really interesting 30-day breakup plan in detail. So is there anything else we want to say on sleep and satisfaction? Is that the little clip on the I can't get no on there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So talking about sleep and the disruption, how many people get up in the middle of the night and look at their phones? How many keep it by their bedside? And this disrupted sleep pattern, we've read about why we sleep, right? Mm-hmm. And how many people are getting their 8 to 9 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep or less, and what's happening to a society with sleep-deprived people. And this instrument is helping us get no satisfaction.
Which, incidentally, Keith Richards wrote
in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night. He was drunk. And he woke up and had recorded it.
And he didn't remember doing it?
He didn't remember doing it.
Oh, man.
God. I can remember a lot of drunk people dancing to it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. I had a babysitting episode with that one time, and the parents came in, and they were... it was not a good night for the babysitter.
Buddy.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Were you that babysitter?
I was the babysitter. Yeah. I was too young to see what I saw. So if you're not well rested, you cannot function very well. And that idea that it affects our judgment, serious accidents increase, injury increases. So this phone is contributing to disrupting our brains in such a way that we're impaired.
We got to take back our lives.
We do. So how are we going to just say we want it back?
So that takes us to part 2 of her book, The Breakup.
Yeah.
So she takes you through 4 weeks, and each day she has a suggestion. And I think she does a good job of just kind of easing you into the idea of breaking up with your phone, just little things at a time, like putting on a Do Not Disturb, which most people think, oh, but what about emergency calls, or such and such. But you can set it up that if there's certain people call, it'll come through even on Do Not Disturb.
Do you have to take a class to be able to do that? Because I think I need one. There are all sorts of things I know my phone can do for me, but I can't figure it out.
Well, the author suggests that you Google your phone model and the problem you want to solve.
So I have to get on my phone to do it?
No, get on the computer.
Oh.
I'm sure there's a YouTube video on that.
Oh, God. I want somebody to hold my hand.
On the iPhone, they make it easy. I'll say that.
Well, I'm an Androider, so that always messes up some of these things, but I love my Android.
You can set it up that way too.
Oh, good. I'm
Yeah.
going to spend some time with you, Tim. This habit, and what we're talking about here is breaking the habits
Right.
that we have just fallen into and reinforced. And so looking for that cue, or that sometimes called a trigger. And so you know that interruptions when you're working is a trigger that you're going to follow. So you want to stop it.
Right.
And she designs these things that she calls speed bumps, which I love. But you got to be intentional and you have to pay attention. That's why this 4-week program could be very helpful to many of us out here. And we may have to report back if either one of us does anything with this now that we know it's available. Kristen, do you think you're going to do this?
I'm going to implement a lot of the things in here, not all of it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm strong enough to do it either. It's like I'm afraid of it, but I think it would be really healthy for me to do. So I may experiment with this.
Well, like any helpful habit routine, or I'll call it elimination, right? She has you start with downloading a tracking app so that you can know what's your baseline. How often am I even checking the phone? What
Did you
apps
do
am
that?
I using? So the iPhone does that for you automatically.
Okay, well, I did it. I went out and loaded one on there. I did the first step,
Okay.
and I don't want to know what it said, so I haven't looked at it.
And then she has you assess your current relationship. So what do you love about your phone? What don't you love about your phone? What changes do you notice in yourself? And that's kind of the mindfulness, right? Being aware of those feelings. Like Tim told us that he was anxious sometimes without his phone. Twitchy.
I'm already twitchy, but it's even worse whenever I don't have my phone.
Start paying attention to what
Yeah, he's on his
triggers
phone
you.
right now. Did you notice?
Yeah.
He's phubbing us.
Called producing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So paying attention to what triggers you to pick up your phone. And so she, like I said, she eases you in, and then she kind of challenges you towards the end to make more distinct moves, like taking 24 hours without being on your phone at all.
Yeah, a fast. A PHAST.
PHAST.
Yeah, this idea of taking assessment. Since we were preparing for a podcast and neither one of us actually did this, we did a speed read maybe through this instead of experiencing it.
Right.
But she does advocate for journaling, and we've read an awful lot about behavior change when you do take the slow path through the changes and don't do too many things at once. Baby steps. And that's the way she's designed this. Yeah, it looks very consistent with what we've read in so many other resources about if you really want to affect change in your life. Have a system, but don't overwhelm yourself.
I agree, yeah.
And she gives you good resources.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Her resources are great.
Right.
You mentioned speed bumps, and I really like that. So things that make you pause and slow down and think about your decision to pick up the phone. So I wanted to share one of these little tools or strategies she has in here called WWW. What for, why now, and what else. So she has you, anytime you notice that you're about to reach for your phone, take a second to ask yourself these questions. So what for? What are you picking up your phone to do? Just gather that information. Maybe you're going to check your email, or you want to go buy something on Amazon or order dinner. Just be mindful of what it is you're picking up your phone for. And then ask why now? Why are you picking up your phone now instead of later? It could be a practical reason, like to take a photo, or situational, like you're bored in line, or emotional because you're tired and you want a distraction. And then what else is the last question? What else could you do right now besides check your phone? And I know you have a comment to say real quick, so I'll end this, but this is very much similar to what we instruct clients at Well Balanced Nutrition to do when they have a craving for food. right? Like sweets. Like, what for? Why am I craving this? Why now? What's going on? And then what else could help me? So I really loved the WWW, and I think it's wise to be able to use that for your phone as well.
Yeah, and I'm thinking we need tattoos.
Yeah, WWW.
Or on the inside of your glasses, so that you don't forget to ask yourself that.
Well, she suggests you put it on your phone screens, and when you do pick it up, it's a picture of WWW or a sticker on your phone.
And those are fun ideas that she's got, because she's experienced this, and she and her husband, did take a fast for a 24-hour period. And the very first day, you're supposed to schedule when you're going to do that in your calendar. So she has you do things that you can then say, oh, I said I was going to do this. And her point is that we're trying to resolve discrepancies between how we say we want to live our lives and how we're actually living our lives, which I think in all of our wellness journey, that is one of the points that we make is, like I say, I'm a healthy woman, but I know I'm not. We all struggle.
We all struggle.
Yeah, it's not like we're all, those of us that are in this industry are doing everything right, because there is no right. There's the moment and the flow and what feels good and what will have good consequences for us, and intention and who we're becoming.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing I know for sure is I'm going to be a lot more mindful about my phone use going forward. Well,
she wants us to delete our social media apps, and that's where I kind of was going along with her until she said to delete them. And I couldn't do it. I said, if I turn that off right now, I don't know I'm strong. So I'm going to have to take the 7 days that she has, because that happens on day 5. Delete social media apps. Boom. Take control of it.
Yeah, for me, I want to change my relationship with them and be more aware of how they affect me than delete them altogether.
Well, she's going to let you reintroduce them.
Later, right. Because it's a 30-day kind of elimination and reassessing plan,
Yeah. There's also this reclaiming your brain that, since we read the book, Breathe, she talks, as another speed bump, is stop, breathe, and be. Mm-hmm. And that with the WWW, I think, is kind of nice, too. And it reminded me a little bit of forest bathing because you can stop and notice your physical sensations. And when we're forest bathing, they say, feel the wind. What does it smell like? What does the bark of the tree feel like? And we don't think like that very often because we're buzzing around too fast. So I think Stop, Breathe, and Be is good. I believe this is a great book. I would also say you could do something even more straightforward. Read, take your phone off. And then she says, why? Because extracting meaning from symbols requires your brain both to maintain focus on those symbols and to simultaneously ignore everything else going on around you. Over time, regular reading, as with our book club, causes physical changes. That's physical changes to the brain in areas responsible for reasoning, processing visual signals, and even memory. In other words, learning to read doesn't just enable us to store and retrieve information, it literally changes the way we think. It reorganizes our neural circuitry in a way that encourages creativity, problem solving, and insight. And is that a good thing to have happen to our brains?
Absolutely. That's what I was mentioning earlier.
All right. Well, I'm all for brain health, living in a society that's happy, healthy, and kind.
Absolutely.
I'm Eleanor Russell at 360 Health, 4u.com, helping promote healthy lifestyles. And if you have questions you want to talk about how you're incorporating them into your life, contact me at my website.
And I am Kristen Norton of Well Balanced Nutrition, where we are registered dietitians helping you create healthy habits around your diet. And we invite you to visit our website, wellbalancednutrition.com, where we have lots of wonderful free resources, and you can schedule a free clarity call if you wonder if nutrition coaching is right for you.
And that wraps up How to Break Up with Your Phone by Catherine Price. 2000 and what was the year that she did that?
2018.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
And give it to your friends.
Go to our website and get yourself a copy.
Oh, yeah.
Have a great day.
views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the expressed written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.